In this video, we will be covering the pricing evaluation capabilities within CostrixIQ. We will cover how to complete an internal evaluation of market pricing against your cost side, what we call trade comparisons within the trade packages dashboard. And we will cover how to complete an external evaluation of market pricing against your sell side, for those times where you need to perform an evaluation for external parties. And we call that a market evaluation, and that is managed from the market evaluation dashboard. So CostrixIQ has been built to perform these evaluations on both your cost and sell sides independently, depending on the audience and requirements of the project. We will also cover how you document and report on budget coverage in the early stages of a project, where firm pricing has not yet been received, but where you have received informal feedback from the market. And the budget coverage, as you can see, is reported on the main dashboard at the top left. So let's now dive into trade packages, the trade comparison on the cost side, and we're going to move to the cost planner, which is where you select your trade packages. So here we are in the cost planner, and as I've shown in previous videos, along the left we have our sections, and these sections are the way we break the project up in our cost plans to the client and how we report externally. This is the way cost plans are visually represented in sections. But the way we procure our projects may vary from the way we present our cost plans externally. And so while on the left of the cost planner we have our sections and our structure, on the right we have a column titled Trade Package Description. And within the Trade Package Description you have a drop-down box of all of your procurement codes that may exist in downstream software solutions or accounting solutions. And so these fields would be preset in your template. So you wouldn't need to pre-populate, or you wouldn't need to populate these every time you complete a line. A template line would also have a template package assigned to it. But if you did want to repackage items in a non-typical way, or you want to break things up in a different way, or package things up in a different way, users do have the ability to come in and adjust the code, and that will adjust the package that cost is being allocated to. And so while the left you have your section headings, and that's the way it's presented externally, on the right under the trade package description you have your packages, and that's the way you would compile your costs internally. And so as you can see, there may be a section such as strip out where everything is going to be packaged all together under such as a demolition code, or your partition, ceilings and associated works may also be combined together. But you may have a section that has multiple trades within it, such as this example where we have toilets and showers. So in toilets and showers, I have some partitioning, some joinery, some waterproofing and tiling, hydraulics, electrical, mechanical, and PC items. And so while externally we'll be presenting that as one section, internally when we procure, we're going to procure those elements from multiple different trade packages. And so as you can see on the right, we have the ability to select different trade packages based on the line and the scope associated with that line. And so we can have some partitioning within the toilets and showers section, and we can have some partitioning within the partitioning section. So it doesn't matter where your lines are spread throughout the cost planner, how you present them to the client, you have the ability to group them into your procurement codes so that you can analyze your costs as per your trade packages in a nice, simple, succinct way, as opposed to having to go through and add or manually add different sections together to try and figure out what costs are you carrying. And so how do we identify our trade packages and start to analyze? Well, in CostrixIQ, that is all done from the dashboard, the green dashboard titled Trade Packages. And so this is the Trade Packages dashboard. As you can see along the left, we have all of our trade packages within our system, and these would be aligned with any other external systems that you operate with. You can then quite clearly and visually see costs associated with each trade package and the costs associated with each trade package broken out per sector. So as an example, I can see my partitions door ceiling package is $341,000 as a total project, but I can also see there's $218,000 of cost on level 1, $85,000 of cost on level 2, and $38,000 of cost on level 3. So just as a reminder, everything in trade packages, all the numbers that you are looking at in this dashboard are reflecting your cost side numbers. The color coding is there to visually represent what are larger packages, medium packages, and small packages to identify risk quite quickly. In our system settings, which are customizable by your own admins, we've set a high package to be anything greater than 10%, a medium package greater than 5%, a low package greater than 2%, and then anything under 2% of our cost we won't highlight. And so I can very quickly see my partitions package is my largest package on the whole job. Workstations, joinery, loose furniture, electrical and carpet are mid-level packages. We've got some lower level packages, and then we've got some smaller costs spread throughout other packages such as blinds and final cleans and so forth. Now I may want to understand and analyze my trade packages as a whole as a total project, and so I've sorted my all sectors largest to smallest, but you may want to analyze largest to smallest on a sector basis. So wherever you double click, it will resort all your packages largest to smallest for that sector. So as you can see, I can now analyze level 2 largest to smallest and my packages on level 2 versus, let's look at our fees. The largest packages on the fees are the multidisciplinary engineer. So it's very easy to analyze quickly what are the large packages in each sector. The other thing to be very aware of is because we work in CostrixIQ with clients very early, and we may have phased procurement where certain elements are contracted early and others are not, we have the ability to lock away portions of scope. And so just to remind you, in the cost planner, we have the ability to lock away certain lines. That means the line has been contracted, secured, is in your procurement software system, and it is won. We're no longer quoting this work. However, we don't remove the costs out of here because we want to look at the project as a whole, but we have identified those portion of costs have been locked away. And so in CostrixIQ, the system can report to you on what are your total costs for a trade package and what are your total costs on a trade package that have not yet been secured or not yet been locked away. And so on the left of the black divider, as you see in the heading, it says current cost. This is all of your current cost. On the right of the black divider, it is your current cost. So it's costs above the line, but it's less whatever we've locked away. So it's remaining costs to be procured. And so we can do the same level of analysis, but we're now operating on the right-hand side of the black divider, and we're working with costs that are still to be locked away. Now from here, we can do two things. We can evaluate our budget coverage early, our informal level of coverage, or we can take formal coverage such as quotes and evaluate quotes from the market against these costs. Let's start with how we can evaluate budget coverage very early and in those mid cycles where the coverage is still somewhat informal. On the Trade Packages tab, we have a button called Budget Coverage, which we will open up. And now I have some extra information that has been displayed that shows my budget coverage type, my budget coverage percent, and some notes. And so as a user, I will come in and I will evaluate based on a package by package against my total cost. Do I have some form of coverage on this? And because it's informal, I have verbal coverage. Do I have a quote? Is it an internal cost that I'm managing? Or have I already procured this item? So you have a different level of risk associated with all of those. What is, as a percentage of the package, roughly, how much coverage do I have? So I might have 100% covered, or there might be some scope in the $341,000 partitioning that I need to get coverage from a separate contractor. So the contractor I've spoken to covers about 80% of that number, so I've included 80%, and I have the ability to add some notes. And so as you can see, we've set in the back end, the budget coverage target is 70%. And what the system does is as you complete your percentages, it calculates what level of coverage on cost do you have against the total cost of the job. And so as you can see, we're currently at 33.22%. Now that 33.22% is also reflected on the main dashboard. So the main dashboard reflects the budget coverage at any point in time to give you a sensitivity or risk evaluation of the current situation. And so if I was to come in and look at my let's call it my mechanical services, I might speak to a mechanical contractor, explain the scope. They say to me, look, you need somewhere, it sounds like mid twos. I'm carrying 231,000. I think my number's roughly in the right spot. You know, I've spoken to the contractor Shields, and as I've completed that, it's actually increased my budget coverage to 42%. You can see on my dashboard, I'm now showing 42% budget coverage. And as we gamify the system, I might come in and say I have a quote on workstations for 100%. I might say I've got a quote on my joinery for 100%. I've got a verbal, I'm going to do this on my large packages. I'm at 63%. I've got a verbal for 100% on my electrical. I'm at 69.03%, still red. And then the second I tip over my coverage, I go green. I'm at 73%. The dashboard is now showing as green, 73%. So we're gamifying the system. We're visually representing whether we're at target, below target. So it's very quick for the team to understand, if I'm red, do I need to do more? What are the packages I don't have coverage on? Looking from largest to smallest. And actually now that I've completed this scenario, I can see all my high and medium risk packages I have some level of coverage on. So if I was reviewing this as a manager, I'd be going, okay, this project's in a good position. We're at 70, 73, 74 budget coverage. It's against all the high risk packages. I now believe this scenario that you're presenting. So you can see how budget coverage can provide a bit of a sensitivity analysis or a risk evaluation on numbers that are being reported within the system. And then it's very easy from a user interface perspective. If you're not using it, you want to park it away, you can close it back up. The numbers are all there. You can open it up and adjust and then close it up again. And so that is how we use budget coverage in the system. It's the informal level of coverage that we have on our cost. But what do we do when we're late in the process and we now have formal coverage from the market? We now have quotes. We've taken our scope of works, we've sent it out to the market, and the market has returned quotes. How can we evaluate on a much more granular level, a much more accurate level, what coverage do we have on this project and what contractors are we recommending that we proceed with? In that instance, you won't use the budget coverage. You will use our trade comparisons functionality. So the way the trade comparisons functionality works, once again, it's complete flexibility for the user. We may want to evaluate every package on the project. So we highlight all the costs on the total project, and then we click the button called Create Selected Trade Comparisons. We may want to do an evaluation on a single package, such as workstations. So we just click workstations and create a selected trade package. Or we may say, let's just evaluate all of our low, medium, high risk packages. We'll ignore anything below low risk. And so I'll just highlight those packages and select trade comparison. And so I'm now going to show you the export, the template that it auto-populates for the evaluation to take place. We can evaluate on the total project, or we may be evaluating on a portion of the works. Your sectors may be broken up into separable portions. We're only evaluating separable portion 1. I may evaluate then on sector 3, which is separable portion 1. And when we come to evaluate separable portion 2, which may be in sector 4, I'll do an evaluation on separable portion 2. So you have the ability to undertake evaluations on the total scope, on a portion of the scope, on all of your costs, or on all of your costs that have yet to be locked away. So really quite a lot of flexibility and functionality in how you undertake your detailed trade comparisons. So now we will look at a scenario where we're going to pick our high, medium, and low packages for the total project, and we're going to create a trade comparison template. Okay, so the system has now loaded in a completely new and clean Excel file a trade comparison template. It's comprised of 2 types of documents. There is a trade comparison summary, and because the costs reflected in this reporting are on the cost side, not the sell side, you will see the red internal only appear on the report. So there's no confusion as to, oh, is this my cost? Is this my sell? Is this something that can be presented externally? So there is an overall summary. And in the summary, it has pre-populated a table with all of the packages that I have selected. So if I had selected all of the costs on the job, I would have had every single package pre-populate. I selected the high, medium, and low packages, so it's presented those. And the system has then got a table for selected vendor, which is currently empty. It has brought across the budget that we are carrying against the trade package. It has got a column called lockaway cost, which is currently red because the lockaway cost currently equals the budget. So we have not yet selected a vendor. So our lockaway cost is the carry number and our over and under is currently 0. The other metrics on this document, it says these packages that we selected on this sector, they make up roughly 72% of the project. So when I'm looking at this summary page, I can go, okay, this is an evaluation on 72% of the project. So it's a large proportion. If I had selected all of my costs, this evaluation would have reflected 100%. And then at the moment, previously we spoke about budget coverage. Now we're going to talk about trade coverage. Currently, the trade coverage on this evaluation is 0% because we do not have any trades selected at the moment, and we are using 100% of our budget as our lockaway cost. So this is a dashboard that you do not touch. It is auto configurable by the system. And so for every single trade package that we've selected, you'll notice that along the bottom, we have a number of tabs, and each tab reflects a trade package. And all of this has been preloaded. So if we want to look at package 2201, partition ceilings, doors and ceilings. I'll click code 2201. And as you can see, we now have a trade comparison template that has been preloaded. It has automatically populated a quantity and rate cost analysis of all the lines associated with that trade package. Our partition doors and ceilings came from multiple areas. Some of them came from the partitions section, but there was some partitioning within our toilets and showers section. So it doesn't matter where the lines are situated in the cost plan, it consolidates those all into one area. And I can see that I'm carrying $341,825, which is the number that we're carrying in the budget and the lockaway cost. I have the ability to add an evaluation for up to 10 trades. I have an area where I can write some notes. And as I evaluate these quotes, I have the ability to include additions for scope that may have been missed. I can also include some deductions for scope that may have been over allowed. I have the ability to insert rows and delete rows, so I can build this out over time. So I have full functionality to start an evaluation. And so you can see very quickly it has pre-populated, in this instance, over 12 trade packages with no manual work. And all these numbers are accurate, and as you can see, for electrical services, it's populated quite a lot of scope into this document. And so if we wanted to start an evaluation, you would start evaluating, you'd put your contractor in, XYZ against A, B, C, and then you would go on a line-by-line basis and you would start evaluating. You might say this contractor was $5,000 on that line and this contractor was $7,000 on that line. You can type included, you can type excluded, you can type 4,000. It will still work with the words. You can add your additions. So I might want to increase this by 5,000. I can add my deductions. Obviously, I would add my scope along the left, but I can add my deductions if they've over allowed. And the number at the top is updating. For the purposes of this, I'm going to very quickly put in some rough numbers, some quick numbers, single cell numbers. So I'm going to put in 300,000 against this line, and I will put in 350,000 against this line. I can close it up to just see my trades I've evaluated. If I get another quote later on, I can open it up and add it to my evaluation. And then after I've undertaken my evaluation, I've added my notes. It's now time to select who I want to use. So at the moment, I haven't selected anyone. And so the cover page has not updated. But now I've done my evaluation and I want to proceed with contractor XYZ. I select contractor XYZ. It's automatically said we're now under budget by $37,000. And you will see on the summary page, XYZ has already been pre-populated into the selected vendor. My budget has remained the same. However, my lockaway cost has turned from red to black, stating that it is now based on a contractor quote. It is now bought through the selected price of $304,000. And my over under is saying that I've saved $37,000. It is also saying that my level of trade coverage on this evaluation is 17%. And that 17% is comprised of the $304,000 I have covered by trade quotes and selected with a vendor over my total cost. So you're trying to get that number up as high as possible. And so you would go through and you would evaluate all of those packages and the summary would be at the top. And so I've gone ahead and completed one in advance. So let me show you what a completed version would look like. So this is a completed version of that evaluation. You can see we have a clear list of who we are choosing for each trade package. I can quickly see what was the budget. It was $1.8 odd million. I can see we've locked away the majority of costs. I can see my overs and unders. I can see my net position. overall, we're saving $63,000 odd dollars. I can see that the level of trade coverage on this evaluation is 92, 93%. Now that is because there are two trade packages. We're still carrying the budget number. We haven't undertaken evaluation, and that is for demolition and that is for other contingency. And so because we haven't selected a vendor for those trade packages, those numbers remain red. So visually, it's very quick to go, what do we have coverage on? What do we not have coverage on? What are our ups and downs? What's my total level of coverage? And how much does this comparison cover as against the whole job? I can understand all those metrics from my summary page. And then if I'm having a lockaway meeting or a handover meeting or an adjudication meeting, I'm bringing this to the meeting. We're then looking through all of the evaluations. I'm looking at all the pricing with the quotes, and we're agreeing what are the numbers that we've locked away. We may come back to this, and we may have looked at the electrical services package, which is currently trade 1. So we haven't renamed the electrical services package. And so after having looked at the electrical services package, we may say, actually, we don't want trade 1. We've evaluated it with the team in a little more detail. We're concerned about their resourcing or something. So we're going to change our recommendation. We're going to move to trade 2. And so I've reselected trade 2. And so now under the electrical package, it's showing trade 2. It's now showing the revised price that's over budget. It's now, instead of a $67,000 saving, it's a $42,000 saving. And we're at 93% trade coverage. And so at that point in time, you're ready to lock away, and then you can load these numbers, these lockaway numbers, into your system. So that is how we can complete a trade comparison on a portion of the work or on all of the scope. There is another functionality that you may want to use, and that is relating to creating a returnable schedule for your trade. So we spoke about the ability to select a single package and create a trade comparison report. So in this instance, I have created an example where I have selected just the partitions, doors, and ceilings trade package. So just the one trade package with the one tab. But I want to amend this to be a returnable schedule because I want to send this to the contractor to say, when you return your pricing, please return it in this format. So I can come in and adjust. I can rename this returnable schedule. So I've renamed the document returnable schedule. I can, now we're still showing numbers. We don't want to show any numbers. I can come into the tab and then I can decide what numbers do I want to show. Do I want to show the quantity in the units and not the cost? Or do I want to show nothing at all? So I can come in and take out my cost, as simple as overriding the cost. My evaluation is now $0. I'm now at $0. So there's no way of giving away your budget. And then the contractor can fill in their numbers. You can explain to them, this may not be the full scope of works, include additions and exclusions or deductions. Add in your notes as you go through and return as a returnable schedule. You also may just decide to remove all of these numbers and give them no scope. And it's for them to complete the template as they see fit. So you may even just take it all out and issue the document like that. So that is a quick way, and we may even just change the heading to be returnable schedule. Take out the internal only, and we're ready to issue that to the contractor for them to return their pricing in that format. And then you can incorporate their pricing into your larger evaluation. And so that is trade packages. That is cost side evaluation. Now I'm going to demonstrate how we can undertake the same type of evaluation, but we're doing this externally. We're presenting this to external parties. And when we're presenting to external parties, we don't want to reflect our cost side numbers. We want to reflect our sell side numbers. And so while trade packages is showing all of your cost, the market evaluation dashboard is reflecting all of your selling numbers. And so the market evaluation dashboard operates in the same way as the trade packages functionally. Visually, it represents the same way. Functionally, it represents the same way. But now we are only showing sell side numbers. So the two big differences are all the numbers you see here are sell side. And instead of breaking the project down into trade packages, which is how we internally package the scope of works, we are presenting these evaluations in the same format that we have been presenting externally, which is in our sections. And so now along the left, you can see our sections. And once again, you can look at sections largest to smallest total project. By sector, we may want to evaluate costs less what's already been procured. Or I may want to evaluate or present these numbers in the same format as the cost plan. So I can double click here and the cost plan changes back to the format or the sequential formatting that is in our cost plan. So the numbers all follow in the same format. So from here, we can do the same thing. We can pick one section, we can pick some sections, we can pick all sections, and we can create a market evaluation template. Now, the only thing to note on the market evaluation dashboard is whether you are utilizing the declared margin functionality within CostrixIQ or whether you are not utilizing the declared margins functionality within CostrixIQ. If you are showing declared margin, you will see the margin declared in the margin section. And the system will automatically know on this sector, we have some declared margin. So I'm going to use the template where we deal with margin. And so it will produce a market evaluation template that also manages all the margin changes along the way. Now, if you are not using declared margin, if it is set to 0 in the system, or if a sector does not include any declared margin, it will use a different template, the same functionality, but a different template where margin is not even discussed. It's not even shown. And so once again, if there is a functionality within the system that you are not using at all with a client, they will never see it in a report. They'll never see the name with a 0 number. They just won't see it. So in this example, I am going to use my all sectors, which we are declaring some margin on this project. And that's what I'm going to show now. So we would select all costs and we would select market evaluation. Okay, so the system has now created a market evaluation summary because we used declared margins template. You can see it creates the same format. There's some more columns than the trade packages or trade comparison. You have the summary page with our sections. You have a tab pre-populated with all the lines the client has seen showing quantity rate total with our sell side rates and our sell side totals. And there's a tab for each section. We have our sections, our selected vendor. We have the margin that is being applied to the section. Remember, we can apply different margin levels to different sections. So some sections we don't declare any margin. They might be professional services. Some we may be declaring 5%. Some we may be declaring 3%. So the system will adjust. We have our budget. And then we have the margin associated with the budget. We then have our evaluated cost, and we have our overhead and margin, or our declared margin, associated with our evaluated cost. And then we have our over under and our over under on our margin. So you can see there's some extra columns that deal with margin. Now, if I had selected a sector that did not have any margin, or I just wasn't using it in the system, you would have seen a report that looks like this, but it would have more accurately reflected, it would have been presented in this format. So you wouldn't have the margin columns, you would just have the section name, the vendor, the budget, the evaluated cost, and the over under. And just like our trade comparison, we would then go through, enter our numbers, add our additions, add our deductions, add our notes, select our vendors, and it will update the summary page. And I've gone ahead and created an example of a fully evaluated document, which is this. So in this example, I've gone through, you can see the vendors that we've selected. You can see all the evaluated costs against a vendor have turned to black from red. You can see our over-unders. But now you can see how margin is affected. So on our 0% margin packages, the budget has shifted from 170,000 to 168,000, but there was no margin on those packages. So the over-under is 2,000 under, no margin change. However, if I was to move down to floor coverings, we were carrying a budget of 275,000 with margin of 13,799. We've evaluated this package at 252,000. So the new margin level would be 12,600. The over under is 23,000, and therefore our margin comes down by 1,150. As you can see, there's a summary level that shows an over under of 39,000 plus a margin under of 1,500, and a grand total at the bottom, which says this was the total project value, 3376628, that was carried as the budget. We've now evaluated this project at 3335646. And so overall, we're bringing the price down by 40,982 based on our evaluation. And we can show that evaluation to the client. Some of the costs may be professional services, which aren't evaluated, they're single sourced. Others may have been evaluated against 3, 4, or 5 trades. And then once again, anything where we're still carrying the budget, you can see those in red. And so if I was to look at white goods, I can see that that's still a carry number. And if I was to go to the WG000, you can see there's no evaluation undertaken. We're still carrying the quantity and rates based on the cost plan. And so that is how we can undertake a market evaluation. And the language that's used in CostrixIQ, we're very careful about the language we're using. It is a market evaluation. It is not a tender evaluation. Some of the evaluation may be based on quotes. Some of the evaluation may be based on verbals. Some of these numbers may actually be plug numbers. We have quotes on everything, but this $5,000 may come from another contractor, and we're putting that in as a plug number. So we can add that to our notes. So how you position the market evaluation is really up to you. The language you use, the level of coverage that you're explaining a market evaluation is informing the client of. It's purely up to you. We keep the language neutral. So it's market evaluation. It's not necessarily a tender analysis or a tender evaluation. You don't see returned pricing. You don't see any of that language, even on the individual packages. It's the evaluated package. So that we keep the language neutral. It's up for you to determine how you position this in the market. So that is how we undertake a market evaluation summary. which is an evaluation on your sell side of your cost plan. So in summary, CostrixIQ has a full evaluation capability built in that automates all of the administration work. There's no manual changing of numbers or scopes of work. You can undertake a evaluation on the cost side of your cost plan, which is an internal evaluation, or you can undertake an evaluation on the sell side of your cost plan, which is an external evaluation. And when you're working early in projects where you may not have formal coverage from the market, you can still report and analyze the level of coverage or risk on the project through the budget coverage functionality that's shown on the dashboarding. If you have any questions relating to the evaluation modules, or if you want to understand anything more regarding CostrixIQ, please feel free to reach out.